All right. So, hey, it's great to have you all here today. And as you know, my name's Gary Fowler, and I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, premier AI and quantum venture studio located in Silicon Valley. And it's with great pleasure that I introduce my friend Guillaume Kloof. Guillaume is he's shown great insight in helping especially early stage startups with getting their product market fit, with more than 40% of the startups failing due to them not having product market fit. He's a guru. He's dedicated to helping fellow entrepreneurs. He's a great ambassador and friend of GSD. He has a drive to letting them set up their own systems, their own startups, but helping and advising them all the way. He is, phenomenal guy. He's also the managing director of Valley Date Tech. So he's located in, you're in Amsterdam, right? Actually,
Yeah.
Northwest Amsterdam, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, Northwest Amsterdam, Holland. So as you know, GSD goes global. He's a great guy. I do want to say to some of the companies that are here, GSD Silicon Valley Experience will be taking place in March. So March 19th, do me a favor, if you have not, if you want to come, I know you did, Dave, signed the agreement, but you need to get that agreement over because I need to start making the solid plans out there in terms of the facilities and how many people. It will be from the 19th to the 24th. We have some of the most interesting people from Silicon Valley coming in, investors, legal teams, etc. You will have, at the end of the time, we'll have a little competition, a little demo day, a smaller demo day, but it's to get you into the feel of what it's like to be in the heart of Silicon Valley. Even if you're in the valley, but you're not connected, what we want to do is we want to connect the dots for you. So it's going to be a very interesting experience, and done it before. I did it a few years ago and it was extremely successful. And because of you guys asking me to do it, we're doing it again for you. So just a FYI. So with that, Guillaume, it's great to have you here today. So I've introduced. Anything else you want to say before we get started?
Well, the only thing I can actually add to it is that we launched a mobile accelerator program, which is mostly for those early stage startups, where in that mobile app, startups can, on the one end, build their business through some do-it-yourself modules within the app itself. Second pillar is where they can educate themselves on what they even remotely need to have ready for getting an investment. And the third pillar is where we created a small ecosystem of partners such as Gary and GSD Venture Studios, where in my experience, startup founders always or rarely know where to go for certain resources. So we got Gary that's making them know which way to go on the global scene. We got an accounting partner, we got legal, all of those parties all in one within that pillar. So trying just to get shit done with these startup founders. And we
to my
started.
ears, Guillaume, that's music to my ears.
I know. We went live on Android on Monday. It's on the Google Play Store. If you just research or search for it, Validate Startups, Valley, VALLEY, Date, DATE, Startups. And yeah, it's on Google Play, and hopefully next week or so, it'll be available on iTunes Store. We're trying to provide as many resources as possible for early stage startups. So it also has a list of hundreds of VCs from all over the world, accelerators, and yeah, just bringing in everything towards these early stage founders and trying to make the ecosystem come together for everybody.
No, that's great. Thanks, Guillaume. So let's talk about, what's happening in Europe right now. We have, so Yuri's on from Finland, who has Lubos. We've got Polish, we've got Czech, we've got Israeli. I'm trying to see who's all here. We've got Silicon Valley. We got people from San Diego. We've got people from all over the place. So let's talk about what's happening in Europe right now. Are you there, Guillaume?
Yes. So you want the startup scene, the investor scene, or people in general?
Yeah, let's talk about the current temperature. I know we talked about it in terms of what's happening with funding. Let's go down through what's happening with early stage funding from your standpoint. Let's reiterate a little bit of what we said, and and how are those companies getting funded? What are they looking for? Those kind of things.
Yeah, so I would have to say during the pandemic, there was a boom in the VC world. So it was very easy to get funding. So for example, right now I got one startup that was at a very early stage, but they were able to raise 900K within a very short amount of time during the pandemic. And now they can't even raise 500K. So things really, I wouldn't say it dried up, but right now, as for the startups themselves, the name of the game is right now traction, getting traction as much as possible. And startups are getting very creative in how they're getting funding. So uh, you can say alternatives that they're looking for are subsidies. They're also looking to get more connected with family offices, as you mentioned yourself. So those are the two things that they're looking at. And one type of player that is really coming up are more debt options. So revenue based funding, where revenue models such as SaaS or e-commerce, the more predictable models that can, where you can arrange for funding, those are becoming a bit more popular. And I have seen one party from the US, Clearco, make the step towards Europe. They're still finding their sea legs to see how it works over here. We even had WeFunder that's also coming up. So those are the developments that I'm seeing, because traditional VCs, they've been pulling back tremendously. So when it comes to early stage funding, it's a bit more hesitant from the VCs. Later stage, they're still very much, you can say, still allocating funds. But early stage, it's yeah, the startup founders are looking around, and especially looking at American VCs that tend to be a bit more open to working with these founders to bring them to that next level.
No, that's great. No, it's great to say. And, and like I said, over even the last couple of weeks, so we had a family office event in Naples with mid-range families, not top tier, but mid-range, up to probably $250 million net worth. So we had a meeting with them. We had a meeting down in Miami last weekend with, again, those families are about $250 million families. So I can tell you, it was packed house. We had a completely packed house for that. So I see that on that side. And then with these other ultra high net worth individuals that we're working with, I see them open up their wall. I mean, I'm dealing with them every single day. In fact, after this call, I've got a call with one of them. So I see it every day. They are looking for traction, but they're also, it's different because they want those personal connections. It's hard to get to a family office. It's not like you can, because if you go on LinkedIn, what it says is family office. They won't tell you it's a Bush family, like the beer. They just say family office. And unless it's hard as hell to figure it out. Yes. Right. So either go through, generally what I would say is go through, a personal connection to get to them, or some family office event. And even those, sometimes they charge a lot of money to go to them. So personal connections are interesting.
I would say when it comes to those family office events, on that front, it can um, how do I put this in the best way possible? When it comes to the family office events, the events are mostly still catered towards traditional investments that they would be making. So real estate and things of that nature, or they have particular teams connected to it. Whereas right now, very slowly, some event organizers are starting to say, hey, we need to shift that conversation, moving it more towards them being able to invest in startups or scale ups, and also being enabling the conversation where it doesn't seem like they're just putting their money in a black hole. So those are the you can say the opportunities that I'm seeing there, from a you could say ecosystem player, because also at some of these events, you hit it right on the head. Sometimes you have to pay a lot of money just to be there, whereas the reward of it is you get 5 minutes to talk to somebody. And with these family offices, the name of the game is relationship building, and within 5 minutes you can't really get through to anybody. So the rewards in participating at those family office events for a startup, you have to really have a great day with everything being in your favor that day.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the other thing that's really interesting, what I'm hearing from a lot of the family offices, if you can talk about what kind of an impact you're going to have on the planet or democratization of opportunity to make the world a better place, their ears open up because they're concerned about what's going to happen, in the next 150, 200 years on Earth if we keep going the way we're going with global warming, the supply, food chain. By 2050, you'd have to double the food supply to feed everybody. How we can look at, having remote workers in places like Nigeria or Ghana or Zambia, how we can find, create jobs so people don't go to places like Boko Haram and those kind of things. And if you start to weave that into your story, they listen. It opens up their ears.
I would say, with regards to that, it's you're completely right, 110% on that. As I noticed that a lot of, especially European family offices, are really looking at what kind of legacy am I leaving behind. And that's why the whole impact investing has become very attractive, a very attractive industry for them to kind of allocate capital to, and also easier to convince them to allocate capital to. So if you really have something that can change the world, they're open to listen. There's still some convincing that will need to be done, but they are that is one industry that across the board with family offices, they are eager to listen to what you got in store for them.
No, you're right about it. It's about the legacy because I've heard that too a few times. And okay, super. So let's go down through, talk a little bit about, tell us a little bit about some of the other things that you're doing in Amsterdam. What's happening? Because you've got a lot of activity going there. It's kind of like Finland, right? You got a lot of stuff going on, but let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, here in Amsterdam, there's a couple things that are taking place. On the one end, there's also the startup ecosystem starting to look at the founders, where they're coming from. So, for example, there's a generation of students that are also becoming very entrepreneurial. So here in Amsterdam, there's two big universities: the Vrije University and the University of Amsterdam. And those two always, you can say, compete against each other. But at the same time, there's also a couple of funds that are specifically looking at student entrepreneurs. And last year, yes, yeah, last year we actually had one of those student entrepreneurs that built an amazing sustainable platform, fashion platform that actually expanded to in Germany and the UK. But that is one development that I have been noticing where they're trying to give more opportunities to that younger generation as well. So the you can say the age of the typical entrepreneur, that's going down tremendously. Where maybe first you had those freelancers that then started as a hobbyist, started to look into tinkering, building their own business, and then, hey, I'm already 35. Hey, I'm 40. Hey, I figured it out. I got my first startup. And right now, it's more like, hey, I'm 20 and I'm doing a minor in business administration, and I kind of saw a gap in whatever field. Yesterday I was talking to a 28-year-old. He got 7 companies, and all 7 companies are international. And I'm like, I like it a lot, but I'm definitely jealous. But those are the things that I've noticed. When it comes to the industry, fintech is still very much a interesting field that I've been noticing, because the ING Bank and ABN are still very much interested and curious to see how they can survive as dinosaurs, so to speak. So they're really looking through their, because they also have accelerator programs that they run. Plus, they have, you can say, a internal incubator program. So on the one end, they want to get talent from the outside and really bring it in. And on the other end, they want to incentivize their employees to come up with new solutions. The only drawback that I do see, and this is across Europe, is that in Europe, when it comes to the, academics, universities and colleges and whatnot, and that going into real world business and startups, when it comes to that, it gets very tricky. There's and you can see it in the number of unicorns and exits when you compare Europe to the US. US, one university has a boatload of unicorns that they churned out. Whereas Europe, it's on the, you can start off with, hey, I got a great idea, but these early stage entrepreneurs tend to get screwed on the IP, where the universities here are more like, oh, then we get research funding. Yay. No, that's you're missing the point. We need to churn out unicorns.
Mhm.
And that is one thing that is slowly starting to change. But it's still there's still a lot of work to be done on that end, and that's more, you could say, structurally, where a bunch of things need to change, because the deals that are presented to those entrepreneurs that are coming from the academics or in-house, pardon my French, it's kind of a shitty deal where,
Mhm.
hey, we provide you the resources and we own 80% of everything coming out, and that's not a good deal for anybody. So that is one thing that I'm seeing where they're trying to change it. And on the investor side, what I'm seeing, the VCs, what I'm seeing is that they are starting to admit that, hey, us Europeans might not be as open to risk. So how can we fill that gap? And what I've been seeing, they're starting to bring in American venture partners, or at least they start out as venture
Mhm.
partners. Sometimes they become managing partners at these VC funds, because it's a different look at how to start up and run these startups. And those cultural differences add value, tremendous value to these European VC funds. So, and that development itself is also that came out of a pain of US based VC funds that wanted to get established in Europe, because yes, the US investors, they were a bit more open to risk, but since they didn't grasp some cultural differences, it was very hard for them to really get good deal flow here. So for them, hey, if I can join your team, it's a win-win for both of us. Otherwise, I'll have to reinvent the wheel, come on my own, and burn out within 6 months. So I'll join your party, and we can both grow. So those are some of the key things that I'm seeing here.
So how is it, Guillaume? I got a question for you. So in terms of Europe, so which one of the I know that the typical valuation is quite a bit less. It could be half of what it is in the States. But what countries do you think are becoming progressive? Are there countries that you see that are better than others in terms of, better valuations and more aggressive startup community, or how does it rank? What are the top three?
Well, I would at the very top, the UK. They are by far the most progressive. Um, um, Second to that, it's a tight race between, I would say, Germany, the Netherlands, and France. But then it becomes more a matter of culture. The reason why I say the UK is very progressive in that regard, they're very much looking at what works, and they're open to changing a couple of things. They're very traditional, but still to a certain degree open to
Yeah,
changing things
how are
up.
you?
And
Yeah, well,
when it
I need
comes
some help,
to
man. I know you're not
when it,
in UBA.
yeah, when it comes to Germany, Germany is all about the results. So if they can figure something out, they'll go for it. But Germany, and I would say the Netherlands as well. I know they'll hate me for comparing those two, but uh, especially the Dutch have a saying: if you're normal, you're being extravagant enough. So
Yeah.
when,
If you're normal,
yeah,
you're extravagant enough.
yeah, you're crazy enough. So
Yeah.
don't do anything crazy. So for a European, if or for a Dutchman, if he comes with a valuation, hey, my company is 10 million euros. Any VC, unless you have maybe 10 valuations from Ernst and Young and all of those big houses, they will laugh you out the building,
Wow.
because it's like, who are you to tell me that your company is worth 10 million? And that is, a lot of it has to do with the culture. The Europeans, the Germans are a bit not as stringent on that philosophy, but the Dutch very much so. So that there's a tight race going there. And when it comes to France, they're right in the middle of it, where it's like, hey, we definitely are open to getting some unicorns in. Let's see what works. So yeah, you can definitely say it's a cultural thing, where the especially the Dutch have that thing as the, hey, just slow down. You don't have to be so out there.
Got it.
Slow your roll.
So what about we talk about Finland, right? Finland's like got slush and everything else. I mean, I've seen a lot of companies coming out of Finland, and it seems like it's a bit more progressive. How's Finland? And we have some Finnish companies on here, by the way.
I would say when it comes to the Nordics, so that I don't want to group them together, but that region is almost like Europe, a different part of Europe, because if you're looking at it from with a world view, the Nordics are very progressive in their politics and things of that nature, and you see it in the quality and the high level of the innovation of their startups. So that is definitely something to be said about that. The one thing that I see when it comes to the Nordics coming into the rest of Europe, it becomes it's almost like, yes, we're all in Europe, but these cultural barriers in between are really yeah, they're slowing down the growth of a bunch of these startups. So the startups from the Nordics, they tend to go over to Germany, where the language barrier towards German is not as high. But after Germany, it becomes a lot more tricky to expand beyond. So that's one of the main things that I'm seeing there, where yes, the valuations are still lower than they would be in the US, but at the same time, they would definitely need like a good, you can say, guide to show them, okay, if you want to get into Spain, look at these things for your market expansion plan. Want to go to Eastern Europe? Eastern Europe itself is also a bit different, where you got Ukraine that was almost head and shoulders above Romania, Bulgaria, and whatnot. But with the war, it's everybody's right now at the same level in that region, because bluntly said, the Western Europeans always felt like they were like the bougie upscale Europeans compared to the Eastern European ones. And whereas the Eastern European ones, they have such amazing talent, but they're just not getting the respect. So yeah, Europe is almost like New York, where you have the different areas, where it's like Harlem is different than Manhattan and Brooklyn and so on. So that's how you can see Europe.
No, that's great. So I wanted to go down through, we're coming up to the top of the show, but questions, any questions from the founders that are here? So if you just want to chime in, that's great. Go ahead, Lou Boston.
Yeah, my question would be for a company, robotics company residing in Czech Republic. If we want to, we're raising now in the Czech Republic, but if we want to raise outside of the Czech Republic, in Europe, where it would be? I guess from your talk, it number one focus might be UK, but maybe you have a different point of view.
Great question. When it comes to you can say from Czech Republic, depends on where you want the investor to be from. The UK is definitely a good, more general, so-called quote unquote safe place where you can register the company. If you've registered it in the UK, it'll be almost like, oh, okay, you're from the Czech Republic, but you're in the UK, so you're good.
Yeah.
You know, it's a mental thing, and that's why I said those Western Europeans. That's just how it's seen. And if you're looking at it as to, but I really want to work and expand within within Europe itself, you might want to look at Germany also.
Mm-hmm.
Because the you can say the policies and regulations for investors to invest within Western Europe, Germany is also a very good market to have the business registered in. Yeah, so those two options I would recommend.
Well, we have registered a company in the Czech Republic, and so we're raising into a Czech entity at this moment, which is a European entity based on the European law, but residing in the Czech Republic. Yeah, but so UK and Germany. You also mentioned France as an option, but it's a little bit further. UK is good because it has London airports, and
Exactly.
you can almost commute to London.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. So I was wondering, what's your point of view? Yeah, even so, for a company registered in the Czech Republic, UK, and Germany would be a good option.
Yeah, and typically what I see is that let's say how you're set up or registered in Czech Republic, you can also register in, let's say, in the UK, but
Right.
as a sister company of the main company.
Oh yeah.
Because yeah, so that's also an option that you can explore, because for the investor, it's all about making it work not only for their investment and the risk stuff, but also tax wise. And for any investor, the UK laws on and tax options for investors to come in, they're very much welcoming external money coming with in the UK. So those are things that that you should also consider, or are options that you can consider when registering there.
Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Yuri.
Hi, Guillaume. I'm Yuri from Sona Health. So we are from Finland, and we are in the medtech business. Currently, we are registered in Finland, and we are now exploring the neighboring markets, which in our case, of course, is Sweden and also the Baltics. And thanks to Gary, we are also looking a lot for the US. My question to you is, do you have any opinion on seeing any differences when it comes to the medtech? Do you see any markets that's something special for us?
When it comes to medtech, it's a tricky industry. I say it very loosely that it's a tricky industry for two reasons. On the one hand, because of very strict privacy laws and relating laws in general in Europe. So getting anything approved or even convincing somebody in the medtech world that you are groundbreaking, it takes a very long time. And that's why when it comes to medtech and not pharma, but medtech itself, it would be a shorter distance to get funding in the US than it would be in Europe, just because of all of the red tape that you'll have to jump through and the convincing that you'll have to do. So for example, if let's say you guys already have a prototype, that's fine in the US, but in Europe, it's like, we need to see a bit more. All right, okay, I got an MVP now. I got 2 clients. Yeah, call me when you got 100. Really? So those are like they're constantly moving the goal when it comes to investors here in Europe, especially in the medtech world. If you do want to get the funding here in Europe, I would say basically what Gary said: build a strong relationship with those investors. Where I think Gary does it very well in at GSD, where they have a newsletter set up where it's building that relationship with these investors. And that's where you constantly show them like I'm not just sitting on my ass. I'm really working and getting shit done. So those are some of the things how you can move the needle a bit more. But in general, it's a marathon times 10 compared to how easy it actually should be, because I can only assume founders as yourself are working on some groundbreaking stuff, but you're not getting the recognition, and just getting to that is can be a bit frustrating. I know that.
Yeah, it's a long journey. It's like marathon, but I think that's where we want to be. That's why we started it. And thanks for the insights. And Gary, see you in Silicon Valley in March.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody else, any other questions before we wrap up? Go
I
ahead.
got a question. Hi, I'm Niv. I'm the CEO of Enerix. We have a special algorithm for energy efficiency, and in the HVAC cooling expenses. And I'm challenging our product is in a very advanced position. We already have traction and beginning. And what I'm challenging most today is around the world and try to focus in a certain area. So I won't lose the perception of our activity. And we still see the US as our main go-to market, but we're getting all the time suggestions and opportunities around the world. And first of all, I want to know how from your perspective, the VCs and the family offices are looking at the energy efficiency. And what do you think about staying in focus or try to get the opportunities when they are offered?
With regards to that, I would focus on what are you working on? Because when raising capital, one investor is going to say, "Hey, I need more traction." Another investor is going to say, "Well, I need, I don't like how your product does this or how your product does that." So the investors are going to pull you left and right and up and down, but you can almost say, stay true to why you even started the business. And based on that premise alone, you'll be able to move a lot more fluidly, where you know exactly which opportunities to pursue and which you can say, "I'll call you later." You know, that would be the best way to go, because um, um, it's almost like in high school, the girls first look like, I'm not gonna even talk to her, and then a couple of years later at graduation, it's like, "It's that the same girl?" That's where you're at, where those investors that wouldn't give you the time of day right now, they're like, "I need to talk to her." That's where you're at right now. And as the pretty girl on campus, you need to know which ones you say no to and which ones you give the time of day to. So just in a simple example, that's how I would proceed with that. And from a practical point of view, go back to your roadmap. What were you working on? Why were you working on that? And then based off of that, you'll see what you need. So when an opportunity presents itself, you'll be able to identify if it adds to your business or if it's going to distract you.
Thanks.
Thanks. All right. Hey, Guillaume, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. It's always appreciated. Great to have you as a friend and ambassador for GSD in the Netherlands. For all the startups that are here, thanks for joining one more time to GSD Network. Let's all get shit done. It's good to see you. You know, I feel like we have family hour here when you guys are here. So it's really good to see you. So Guillaume, thanks. What's the best way for them to reach out to you if they need to get a hold of you?
They can just go on LinkedIn and Validate Tech. Then they'll get the company page, and from there they can see all of the information. I'm listed as the managing director there, but there they can see all the practical examples of what I'm doing on a regular basis and the opportunities that I'm trying to create for all these founders.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot. Stay
Thank you
safe,
very much.
stay happy, and stay healthy. Stay tuned, and I'll see all you guys soon. All
All
right.
right.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.